This is my second video on The Merchant's Prologue and Tale by Geoffrey Chaucer. We had got as far as the false start that the merchant has made with telling his tale. He's been diverted really by this extended ironic praise of women, and we're in the middle of that. He's just introduced a counter-argument based on Theophrastus. Theophrastus speaking against taking a wife, and the merchant very ironically now is going to sort of reaffirm his praise or his approval of being married, and his praise of wives. So Theophrastus has just finished by saying, don't get married, you'll become a cuckold, and the merchant responds, "This sentence, and 100 things worse, writteth this man, there God his bones curse." So that's what Theophrastus wrote, and may God curse his bones. "But tak no cape of all such vanity." Hopefully that's clear just from the way I've read it. Take no notice of this nonsense. Defy Theophraste and Herke me. Defy Theophrastus and Herke. You can see that it looks a bit like hark, as in hark, the herald angels sing. Listen, the herald angels sing. Herke me. Listen to me. A whiff is God's gift, verily. Gift. Verily, truly. A wife is God's gift. All other manner giftes heartily, as londes, rentes, pastur, or commune, or moebles, alle ben giftes of fortune. So, all other types of gifts. It surely he means so. In comparison with all other types of gifts, surely, such as land, rent from land, pasture, or commune. Commune is the right to graze your sheep on pasture. So whether you're a landowner or a renter, any of these things are inferior to having a wife. So he's already comparing wives to property, which by today's standards seems a bit weird to us. But again, it goes along with the misogynist framework of this tale. Moebles is furniture. Alle ben giftes of fortune that passen as a shadow upon a wall. So these are transient goods. But dreadless if plainly spake it shall. So fearless, if I may speak plainly, a whiff will last, and in din hus endure, well lenger than the list, paraventure. So a wife will last. Unlike these other forms of property which pass like shadows on the wall, a wife will last you and endure, carry on in your house. Well lenger, a lot longer than the list, paraventure. So she'll last well lenger, a lot longer than the list, than you had expected, or than you hoped. So again, there's a little bit of irony, of double irony, I guess, creeping in there, because the merchant hates marriage and he's pretending to love it. Marriage is a full great sacrament. He which that have no whiff, he hold him shent. He's ruined. So the man that doesn't have a wife, I consider him, I hold him. We still use that. I hold you in contempt. I judge him. Ruined. He liveth helpless and all desolate. You can see the modern words there. Desolate really is similar to ruined. He spake of folk in secular estate. He corrects himself there. He's talking about, He doesn't mean priests, basically, because you can't be married if you're a priest before the Reformation. So he's just qualifying what he's saying. Like, clearly if you're not married and you're a priest, you're not ruined. But for everyone else, you are, apparently. And herkowi, listen why, is say not this for nocht. Oh, well, that's reassuring. I'm not just, this isn't just talk. I'm not saying this for nothing. That woman, okay, this is where he talks about women as being there to help men. So this is his second praise of women, and it's slightly more materialistic than his first general praise of women. I've split this up into three. There are three kind of general declarations in praise of wives and being married. As you can see, the first one has already got quite materialistic because he's been comparing women to land. And he's going to carry on here. That woman is for man's help, erocht. Erocht meaning, you can see the word there, wrought. So if you read The Lord of the Rings, the ring was wrought in the fires of Mordor. So wrought as in made. Man was made for man's help. Woman was made for man's help. The here God, the high God, when he had Adam maked and saw him all alone, belly naked, God of his great goodness said then, let us no make an help unto this man, like to himself. And then he made him Eve. Hopefully that's clear enough. He's just telling in his own way the story of Adam and Eve being made. So God, being good, said, let's now make a help to this man, exactly like him, and so he made Eve. It's rather trite way of telling the story, but well, I guess the story itself is arguably quite trite. Anyway, here may you say, just looking at this story, you can see, here may ye say, and here be may ye prave, that whiff is man's help and his comfort, his paradise terrestre and his disport. So you can see from this story, and you can prove from this story that wife is man's help and his comfort, and his paradise on earth, and his disport, his fun, I guess. So buxom and virtuous is she. Buxom means obedient. They most need is live in unity. So she's so obedient and virtuous that they have to live in unity together. All flesh, sorry, that's not O as in O, it's O as in one. All flesh they bane, and all flesh, as I guess, hath but unhurt in well and in distress. So they're one flesh, and, as I guess, so he's just Chaucer's phrasing there, making sure that he keeps this kind of conversational tale-telling style going. So they're one flesh, one heart, in well and in distress. Chaucer's repeating that kind of sickness and in health reference there. The merchant continues with his sort of second general declaration of praise for wives. A whiff! Ah, Saint Maria Benedicite! Ho mich the man, and any aversity that have a whiff. So he's trying to be a bit holy there. How can a man have any trouble, adversity? You can see the word there. How can a man have any trouble that hath a whiff? How can the man who has a wife have any problems? Certes, he cannot say. I don't know. So he's answering his rhetorical question. I don't know, because wives are brilliant. It's so laboured and over the top. I think so. Hopefully, you can kind of feel the irony coming through here. The bliss which that is betwixt them tway, the bliss that's between the two of them, there may no tongue tell or heart to think. So the bliss, it's unspeakable bliss. You can't actually do justice to it by talking about it. No tongue can tell it. No heart can think the bliss that exists in marriage. if he be poor, she helpeth him to swink. If he's poor, she helps him to work. She keepeth his good, and wasteth never a dale. So she looks after his property, and never wastes anything. Adele doesn't waste a thing if he's poor. Again, it's very materialistic. His priorities here. All that her husband lost, here licketh well. Everything that her husband wants, she likes. She wants too. Gosh. She saith not honest, nay. One he saith yea. So not once does she say no when he says yes. Do this, saith he. All ready, sir, saith she. Hopefully that's clear enough. So he says do this, and she says I'm at your service. I'm ready to do what you want. Oh, blissful order of wedlock precious. Thou art so merry, and eke so virtuous, and so commended, and approved eke, that every man that held him worth a lake, upon his bare knees, ocht all his life, thanken his God, that him hath sent a whiff. So hopefully that's clear enough. He's just it's such a wonderful state. It's so merry. It's so virtuous. It's so commended, approved of by society. That everybody who's worth a leek. It's a funny little rhetorical device there. It's so kind of rural and agricultural, talking about this holy sacrament. So it's just the merchant's kind of unrefined nature coming through there. So he's not as eloquent or as elevated a speaker as some of the other pilgrims, like the knight, for example. So there's a sort of little climax of his praise of marriage there, but I think he goes on, or else pray to God for him to send a whiff to last unto his liver's end. Pray to God to send you a wife to last unto your life's end. 4. Okay, so we're nearly at the end of this second general praise. For then his life is set in sickerness, then his life is set in security, then he's well set. He may not be deceived, as he guess, so that he work after his wife is read. He's not going to be deceived, he's not going to be disappointed perhaps, as he guess, I suppose. So that, I guess that means if. So that if he works after his wife is read, that means advice. So he's not going to be disappointed if he takes his wife's advice. So suddenly the wife is taking a bit of responsibility here. Again, that might be the merchant kind of being ironic because he thinks that wives are shrews and that actually they're the ones who want to be in charge. They been so true and therewithal so wise. So true and so wise. For which, if thou wilt worken as the wise, so if you're going to work like the wise, if you're going to do what the wise people do, if you've any sense, do always so as a women will they read. Always do what women advise you to. Okay, there's that word again. You can see it's spelt differently, and you were allowed to do that in those days. So read means advice. That's probably a good one to learn as well. On he goes. He now offers some biblical examples of how wonderful wives are, and he has a bit of fun here. Chaucer has some fun because they're all kind of stories where the certainly from a male perspective, the motives of the women have been dubious or spurious. I guess the Old Testament isn't really known for its kind of great celebration of women anyway. I'm just surprised he doesn't mention Delilah, but he doesn't anyway. So lots of the stories that he's about to offer involve sort of deception and manipulation by women. So here we go. Lo, who that Jacob, as this is Clerkes read, according to the scriptures, he means, be good counsel by good advice of his mother Rebecca, bound the kid's skin about his neck, bound the kid, that's the goat kid's skin, about his neck, through which his father's benison he won, his father's favour. So he won favour by deceiving his father that in fact he was Esau, on his mother's advice, by tying a goat skin round his neck, apparently. Example number 2. Lo, Judith, as the story eke telecan, as the story also tells, be whiz counsel she goddess people kept, and slow him Holofernes while he slept. She looked after God's people and killed Holofernes while he slept. Lo, Abigail, be good counsel. There's that word again, advice. So, manipulation is the subtext here. Lo, Abigail, be good counsel, who she saved her husband Nabal. She saved her husband Nabal, one that he should have been slain. So she saved her husband Nabal when he should have been slain. If you look at the story, that wasn't really her main motive at the time, saving her husband. That was just kind of a bonus. And look, Esther also, by good counsel, delivered out of woe the people of God, and mad him Mardochai of Asura and Honset for to be. So by good advice, she delivered from trouble the people of God, and made Mardochai of Asura and Honset for to be. So you're going to need to look at the footnotes in whichever edition that you're using, just to make sure you get the references that are being used there. But we're going to move on. There is nothing in great superlative, as saith Seneca, above an humble whiff. So no, grey means degree. So there's nothing as great as a wife, basically, as that's what Seneca says. And now he begins, having issued that sort of those biblical examples. Now he begins his third kind of general praise of wives, as I put it. This is just my wording. I could probably do it better, but that's just what I noted right now. His third general declaration in praise of wives, and this time getting married and loving your wife is a form of, or keeping a wife is presented as a form of self-love. Suffer the whiff's tongue as Caton bit. Again, there's a bit of irony, double irony again, creeping in here. So put up with your wife's tongue as Caton bit. That's a reference to some school book, which we don't have anymore. She shall command, and thou shalt suffer in it. Okay, so this is a slightly different approach now. She's the one in charge, and thou shalt suffer in it. So he's kind of turning the screw even further now, by not just saying that wives are great, but saying that men should be obedient to their wives. And yet she will obey of courtesy. Oh, and yet she will obey as well. A wife is caper of thine husbandry. She looks after your household. Well may the sick man bewail and weep, thereas there is no wife the host to keep. So the sick man will bewail and cry because there's no wife to look after his house. He warn they, if wisely thou wilt work, if you want to work wisely, if you know what's good for you, love well the wife, as Christ loveth his church. Love your wife well, as Christ loved his church. If thou lovest thyself, so this is my point about, looking after yourself. If thou lovest thyself, thou lovest the wife. So, kind of logical, rhetorical pattern being used there. No man hateth his flesh. No man hates his own body. No man hates himself. But in his life he fostereth it. You look after yourself. You foster to look after. No man hateth his flesh, but in his life he fostereth it. And therefore bid I thee, and therefore I bid you, cherish the wife, cherish your wife, or thou shalt never they, or you will never cherish yourself. Husband and wife, whatso men lap or play, whatever men may joke, or, well, it's a sort of double, it means the same thing here, so whatever the jokes may be, whatever the jokes may be, husband and wife of worldly folk holden the sicker way. Of worldly folk, so folk, people, worldly, of the world, so basically of everyone, all the people in the world, husbands and wives hold the sicker way, the true way. They ben so knit, there may none harm betide. Right, they're so closely knit, they're so tight, that there may none, so there may no, you can see the word there, no harm betide, no harm will come to them, because they're so tight, so closely knit. And notably, especially, upon the wither's side, so neither of you will come to any harm, especially on the wife's side. That's, again, slightly odd and inconsistent, so again, you can read that various ways, but it could just be, again, some double irony coming in from the merchant, or just him being just lacking consistency. For which, and for which this January, of whom he told, considered hath in his day as old. For which January finally gets back to his character and his story, of whom he told, that I was talking about ages ago, considered hath in his day as old. So this is what January thought when he was getting old. He decided he was going to get married. And now we're back to the story, so I'm going to finish this video because he's finally found his way back to the story. So just to recap, he began by discrediting Theophrastus, and then there's just been this kind of long rambling praise of wives. First there was kind of the materialist praise of wives, comparing them to land and property, and then there were some biblical examples, and they were intermingled with him discrediting alternative views such as that of Theophrastus, and then more recently this third kind of praise has looked at kind of self-love and looking after, having a wife as a sort of self-maintenance, looking after yourself. And now we're finally back to the story, and that's what the next video